Okay, so in this video, I'm going to go through 10 things that have helped me to be more productive, make more money, and just overall live a better life. These are all things that I've implemented throughout my life, and basically sometimes I do them all the time, sometimes I don't do them too much. These are all things that if you implement them into your life, you're going to make more money, you're going to be more productive, you're definitely going to have a better life, and I want to share them with you. So if you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Ben Lister. I help agency owners to save thousands and thousands of hours by sometimes even doing their outreach for them, so they can start to work on the agency rather than working in the agency. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is intermittent fasting. Now, this is something that a lot of people talk about, many people have tried, but I don't think that people fully understand the benefits from this. And just by not eating in the morning, which sounds like a super small thing to do, you're actually going to get such huge benefits. Not only is it really difficult for you to gain weight at this point and to, you get fat because you're just not eating much at all, you're only eating between 12 and 8, it also means that you are just having this insane amount of motivation in the morning because you wake up still a little bit hungry, you aren't able to eat because you're following this diet, and you have this motivation throughout the whole morning to just get stuff done, and then once you're done you can actually eat. And the benefits of this, and actually the reward of eating, which you have fasted for such a long time, is so ridiculously high. I don't think people actually understand how good this feels and how much better it feels. I'm pretty sure there is studies out there that links intermittent fasting with high amounts of dopamine release for prolonged periods of time as well, not just short periods of time. So it can definitely help with your motivation. It can definitely help with getting stuff done. And if you want to have a really productive morning, then I would always recommend this. And the next thing I want to talk to you about, which might sound a little bit weird, but it's actually to go and get yourself an Apple Silicon device. Now, if you don't have a MacBook already and you don't really use Mac, then I can understand the hesitancy to do this. But I think that there was the amount of increase that the Apple Silicon devices, the new chips that Apple use in terms of performance power, in terms of how fast they are and how much battery life they have, is insane. And I think it's so underrated. If you haven't brought a new laptop recently, my girlfriend has one of the old Apple Mac with her work, right? And it's an Intel chip. And the difference between those is so insane. I can't actually contemplate how much of a leap that it is. And when you look at the numbers and you see the performance power and the difference and stuff, it is obviously easy to see why it is like this, but I don't think many people realize just how insane the difference is. And so if you get one of these computers and you work on your computer all day, which most agency owners do, you're going to be so much more productive. You're just going to not have to waste time for things to load and stuff like that, and everything feels so effortless. And it really is a bit of a secret hack if you're not actually currently doing this. And the third thing is to just not drink any alcohol or caffeine at all. If you start to do this, you start to have really powerful effects from also using alcohol and using caffeine. I think there's obviously a notorious thing about people who get drunk too quickly and stuff like that, but this effect happens for any drug in the world, including caffeine. And so if you have this basically zero tolerance to caffeine and you have zero tolerance to alcohol, when you have a small amount of alcohol, when you have a small amount of caffeine, the effects of that can really be very valuable to you, and they can be quite strong. And so if you haven't had caffeine for 6 months, and I very rarely have caffeine, I'm talking literally once per month, every time that I have caffeine, the effects of that are so astronomically strong. If I need to come up with new ideas, if I need to brainstorm and stuff like that, and I just really can't think, I can unlock that, right? But if you are having caffeine every single day, then you are not going to have this effect. You are basically going to be just sort of diluting your brain to the point where you are not really getting this effect at all, and you're sort of just giving yourself a stimulant, you're sort of just giving yourself a stimulant just so it can function. Whereas because I've been able to basically starve myself of caffeine for so long, it means that every time that I want to have that incredibly high stimulant, then I can do, and it's very easily accessible, and it's super cheap as well, for a cup of coffee or an energy drink or anything like that. Also as well, if you're not drinking alcohol on the weekends and stuff like that, if you very rarely drink alcohol, you're not getting hangovers, your productivity is going to be through the roof, you're not going to have to struggle with, waking up in the morning, and your routine is going to be perfect and stuff like that. And alcohol is one of the biggest things that will throw that off. Your mental state after, especially if you have a hangover, can last for 3, 4, 5 days, especially when you can start to get into your 20s and you're no longer an 18-year-old. So it's something that I would always recommend avoiding. And then one thing that might be controversial is to avoid over reading. This is basically on the same path of analysis paralysis, if you know what that is. But if you just read and you have a 1 hour slot, a 2 hour slot every single day where you get reading done, I think that's just so unproductive. There's no need for you to read 50 books in a year. There's just not a need for that. It's a cool achievement, and obviously you're going to be quite articulate, and you're going to be able to understand quite a lot of different ideas. But at some point you actually have to get the work done. And if you're reading a book and you're not enjoying it, you're not really getting the benefits out of it, then it's best to just put it down. And I see people sometimes they brag about how many books they read, and I'm sure that they're pretty intelligent guys and they know what they're doing and stuff like that. But I would much rather be the person who read one book 100 times that was incredible than 100 books once that were sort of okay. Some were good, some were bad. And I'm not saying that books are not valuable, and you shouldn't read. But for me, I have a handful of books that I just read on rotation. I've read, a few times. I often do buy new books, but there's so many books that I bought that I just never actually finished reading because I didn't actually enjoy them or didn't get any benefit from them. And a lot of publishers nowadays, they want books to be, 250 pages plus, but some ideas can be said in 50 pages. And you can start to see there's a lot of really, really good books out there, and they have great ideas, and they could really be 50 pages. But what starts to happen is these publishers demand that they do more, and so they sort of just waffle for the rest of the book, and 50% of the book kind of can be removed, and the same benefits on the same information can be displayed in the book with 50% less pages. So in my opinion, a lot of reading is pointless. And if you're not already meditating, I think this is the 5th or the 6th one now, then you definitely should be. It's basically the opposite of going on TikTok. And so you are training your brain now to withstand long periods of focus. And it's literally just doing nothing. It's sitting, it's being peaceful. It's not really, doing anything as such. So you don't have to think about this or do anything. You just have to try and focus on your breath or something very specific. And if you can do this, the amount of focus that you're going to get, the increase in focus is going to be pretty insane. You're going to be able to focus on tasks for long periods of time. And what is going to start to happen is when you are working, you're going to notice that you are being distracted more and more, because all meditation really is focusing on the breath, focusing on one single point, realizing that you become distracted because it's inevitable, and then slowly bringing yourself back to that point in that breath. And what's going to happen here is you are, doing a task right now, you are, making some email copy or something like that, and then you have a thought, I'm going to check the news. And you start to realize, because you're in this meditative state, because if you've been doing this consistently, your body starts to get used to it. And if you've done this 10 days in a row, you're going to be basically there. Your body's going to realize that is a distraction, and what I'm actually focusing on is the email copy, not the news. And so you'll realize, and you'll stop doing it, and you'll get back to the task, and that's going to make your productivity go through the roof. And so the 6th point is hydration tablets. Now, this is really underrated. I don't know anyone that actually talks about this, but there's big brands out there like Element. There's a brand in the UK here called Fizz, Fhizz, and I have one of those every single day. It's literally just a blend of, I think there's salt in there, and there's potassium in there, and there's vitamins in there. But what it does is it just means that you actually are fully consuming the water that you drink. And so lots of people drink 2 liters, 3 liters of water a day, which you probably should do, and if you aren't, then you definitely should. But having these hydration tablets, which is literally just a short fruity drink, what it means is that your body can actually hold in that water. And now the science of it, I don't really know too much, but you basically need to have sodium, and you need to have salt, and you need to have potassium, and all these things for your body to make the most of the water that you're drinking. And so if you're doing that, like I have been for 6 months now, what starts to happen is you don't really get that weird thirst. There was times before, especially late in the day, where I could drink water. I could literally drink 2 liters of water if it was cold water, and I would not feel any more hydrated. And what I started to realize was that my sodium intake and all these different things, all these different minerals, was not as high as it should be. And so the hydration drink basically fixes that. I think there's things out there in America called Liquid IV and stuff like that that's quite popular. But if you're not drinking something like that on a daily basis, then you're kind of missing out. I think the difference between being 98% hydrated and 100% hydrated is insane. I know when it comes to athletic performance, and definitely when it comes to cognitive performance, if your hydration is a tiny bit below, let's say it's 2% below what it should be, the difference is not 2% in your cognitive and your athletic performance, it's 10%, right? And so you can imagine if you are 10% less hydrated than you should be, the kind of effect that is going to have on you and your mental state. And so it's kind of a game changer when you just get into this and you just have one, with your first meal of the day. And then the 7th thing is walking. So this is something that a lot of billionaires talk about. I think Bill Gates talks about this all the time. If he needs an idea, he just goes out and walks 20 minutes. I don't know what it is, but it's the rhythmic thing of walking where your brain just doesn't even think about it. You just put one foot in front of the other. It's just so subconscious walking. It activates you being able to think about more things. It kind of takes your mind off the complicated stuff. If you're just sat there and focusing on one specific thing, one task, like I said, writing email copy, it's very difficult for your brain to actually come and start to create new ideas in this. It's in this weird mode. But if you start walking, it's almost like your body enters a different state. You're doing this very, very low exercise activity, and what is starting to happen is your body has now movement, or at least some kind of gap there for you to create ideas and think of new ideas. And the science behind this, obviously this is some pretty bro science, but it 100% works. And every time that I need a break, or I need to think about something, or YouTube ideas or anything like that, if I just go on a walk, it's pretty easy for me to get things done. Take your phone out with you with a notes app, some headphones, some noise cancelling headphones, and block the sound out, and literally just have a walk and think about what you can come up with, and you will start to come up with so many ideas. It's kind of like when you're in the shower and you think of ideas, but it's kind of like because you're just on autopilot, you're just having a shower. The walking is like a prolonged period of time where you can do this for like an hour. So yeah, super underrated. And the next thing I want to talk about is actually an app on my phone that I use, and it's called OneSec, ONESEC. And basically what it does is it adds an automation into your phone. It works on iPhone, pretty sure it'll work on Android too. So when you go onto an app that you don't really want to go on, like social media or the internet or anything like that, every time that you click on it, it comes up with some kind of task for you to do, whether this is you wait 20 seconds or there's like a dot one where you have to follow the dot with your fingers to actually get access to the app. And what it starts to do is disconnect your brain from the instant gratification and the instant dopamine of that social media, of that app. And so if you find yourself constantly pressing on Twitter and you constantly refresh your Twitter feed, if you add that 15-second friction in there, which is a tiny bit of friction, it's a huge thing. What starts to happen is your brain no longer associates Twitter with instant dopamine. It associates it with work, with effort, with some kind of friction. And so you stop having that desire to go onto your phone and to go onto the different apps that you might be, wanting to avoid. And so I've had this on my phone for over a year now. And the difference this has made in me actually wanting to go on my phone, I don't feel for it, I don't touch it, I'm not looking for it at all, And it's kind of bizarre. And it makes you not actually want to go on your phone because it makes it really boring. My phone is super boring. I don't even have like a wallpaper. There's literally no apps on the home screen or anything like that. Just by having this in place, so when I click on an app or that I don't want to, like social media, that I have this interaction in place where I have to do something to actually get onto the app, it just makes it so much more intentional and so much more difficult to actually go onto the app, so you lose that drive to want to do it. And then number 9 is sleep tracking. So I've actually recently invested in this, which is a Whoop band, and to be honest with you, I haven't used it all that much, like for too long. You need like 30 days for it to fully calibrate. But the results and the kind of information I've been getting from this is kind of insane. It's like you think that you are getting 8 hours of sleep every single night. You definitely aren't. You are getting 5, 6, 7 if you're lucky, and it will tell you the kind of sleep that you're getting, what kind of quality that sleep is, and it's quite shocking, to be honest with you. So I've realized very quickly that I'm not getting the kind of sleep that I wanted to, and so now I'm putting things in place. And obviously there's so much stuff you can do where you can track like what kind of supplements you're taking, and you can track if you're wearing like an eye mask or you're taking medication or anything like that, and it will start to tell you whether these things are actually having an effect. So on average, when you took a magnesium supplement, for example, it had a 10% increase in your sleep quality. When you wear a sleep mask, it had a 5% increase, and all that kind of stuff. And so you can basically see if you're taking magnesium tablets, for example, that it's having no effect at all. You can just stop doing that. Or for example, if you see one thing that's working really well, then you can just double down on it and make sure that you absolutely do. This is essential for you to have a good night's sleep. And so this kind of biohacking, this information that you get, is really invaluable. And so I'm going to start to learn an absolute ton over the next few months, basically how I can improve my sleep. And you don't need to be an expert to understand why having more sleep can make you more productive and make you more money and just overall make your life better. And the last thing I want to talk about is having a day off. Now, I have every Sunday off at this point. This is where I do very little work. Any work that I do is not towards my business, it's not towards my agency. And there's a saying in combat sports, mixed martial arts, that it takes confidence to have a day off. You don't want to overtrain. You don't want to overdo it. You want to have a day where you think, you know what, I've kind of pushed to the limit here. Now I'm slowly going to start to ease off. And if you can do that, you're confident in your ability to do that, and you don't think you need to work because, you don't know where your client is coming from. You kind of are in this trap where, productivity is slowly going to start to decrease. There's studies out there from, people who do 9 to 5s that if they work 4 days a week, they're actually more productive than 5 days a week. And I don't know if this is the same kind of thing, but it very much feels like if I were to work 7 days a week and just be constant nonstop, I would probably be less productive than if I worked 6 days and I knew I had that day off, and I kind of have to get things in there in order to get things done in the 6 days, and I can't really rely on just doing things into my Sunday because I have the Sunday off. I've recently moved in with my girlfriend here in London, and I definitely do need that Sunday off because I need to obviously spend time here, spend time with her. And by having the confidence and be able to say, you know what, I'm not going to work this Sunday, it just makes my whole productivity so much more better. And it's kind of counterproductive, but working 6 days rather than 7 days actually feels like I do more. But if you are looking to sign clients on a done for you basis, then click the first link in the description. We're not asking for your email or your phone number, nothing like that. It's literally just a video of me, but you can watch these videos and never click that link if you want, and that's no problem. But if you like the video, then obviously like the video, comment if you want me to cover anything specifically, and of course subscribe if you are new here. But yeah, appreciate you watching this one to the end. Cheers.